What's up, guys? I'm Garrett.
And I'm Keith.
And today we're reviewing The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. Awesome book. A little different setup than the books we normally read. Still a classic, though, man.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's not your just go through the chapters. Each one is told in a parable, different parable. Kind of the same characters throughout. They kind of build on each other and kind of skip generation after generation, and the lessons are taught down through the generations. But yeah, definitely a different type of book. Told in parables. So what's your biggest bang out of this one?
So, I mean, the first time I read this book, biggest thing for me was taking 10% of everything you make and paying yourself first. So taking 10% of all of your income, putting it in a sacred account, and using that money specifically to create cash flow through investments.
And that's what we love to talk about, putting money aside for investments and talking about investments. This is how you do it. The other thing they talk about is the 20%. That's my big bang too, by the way, the 10%, and then the 20%. A lot of people in debt, people have credit cards, student loans, that type of thing. They're basically laying out, you take 10% of your income, put it aside for a future estate, right? You do all of that. Take 20% of your income and start paying down your debt equally. So you take that 20%, spread it across all of your debt every time you get paid. Yep. So, yeah, in the book, I mean, like I said, it's told in parables, and they go around the 7 laws of gold that was told. Again, this is ancient Babylon, parables from ancient Babylon, or set in ancient Babylon. So the 7 laws of gold, with the first one, put aside 10% for your future estate, 10%. Control the expenditures, always look at a budget. Get a budget, absolutely. Put each coin to labor, that's what we're going to talk about probably the most.
Invest it. Money's meant to be spent and invested.
That's right. Guard that treasure against loss. Obviously, you don't want to be making...
Don't spend it on consumables. It's there for investing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, practices that you don't know anything about, or people who are just going to swindle you, right? Own my own home. I mean, we're real estate agents. I think that's a pretty good one.
Pretty important.
Yeah. Secure your future estate, your retirement. I mean, that's the way I looked at it. You're building a future estate. I mean, we're real estate agents. We don't have any kind of retirement.
Yeah, we don't get pensions.
You're building that, yeah. And increase your ability to earn. So there's your 7 levels, your 7 laws of gold.
Yeah, which are all huge, right? So I think if you follow all those, you're really ending up with a large amount of wealth. Your family is set, and your future generations are set if you're doing all that correctly.
And it's that 10%. I mean, how hard is it to put aside 10% and then 20% to get out of debt? You really have to look at it as, if you had no choice to, if all of a sudden you got a pay cut at work, if all of a sudden you got a pay cut monthly, however it is, you don't sell enough houses that time, you would figure out a way to make it work. Yep. So whether times are good or times are bad, you're pulling that 10%. I mean, you're always talking about the 10%. How often?
Always, man.
All the time.
It's my favorite part of getting paid. First thing I do, I deposit that check, go right into my little app on my phone, move that 10% over to my account. That's my favorite thing whenever I get paid.
Yep.
The rest of the money doesn't even matter. I just like getting that 10% because that's my money.
Yeah. Another big part of this book for me was procrastination. You know how much I procrastinate all the time.
We all do, though, man.
But it's the opportunity, the 10%. You got your 10% put aside. So you have your 10% put aside, an opportunity shows up. There's no procrastinating. There's no overthinking it. You're ready. You're prepared. And prepared, you always want to be prepared.
Right. That opportunity comes along. You didn't have that money.
Right.
Did it even come along?
Right. When we did the Millionaire booklet by Grant Cardone, he talks about having money put aside. He went out. He went without for years. Opportunity presented himself, it was him picking it up.
He talks about the sacred accounts too, man. You have to have that 10% put aside. I think that's probably the biggest part of this for me. What else did you really like about this book, man?
So, I mean, the same thing you did. I mean, the 10% building into investments. When they're talking about investments, you're finding something that is going to flow income to you regularly without you working. So as real estate agents, we don't have a pension, we don't have a retirement. If you're not putting that 10% aside, and of course we're going to look at it as investment properties, commercial, resident, whatever you're going to buy, but an investment property, keep going, that 10%, then 30%, you're buying investment properties largely.
When we take vacations, if we get sick, we don't lead generate for a day, we're not getting paid
Money
from
stops.
that, man. Money stops coming in. You need to have those other cash flow streams and other incomes coming in.
That's right.
Because life happens, say you wanted to move. Now you got to go start an entire new sphere of influence out there. You got cash flow coming in, man. You can do whatever you want. That's the basis of financial freedom, in my opinion. Having that money ready to go.
Talking about the basis, the foundation. So I think pretty much every financial book, every book about wealth building, I feel like this is the first book you read. I feel like this sets the foundation, and then you start learning the tools and the way to build that income. But this teaches you, gives you the foundation of how to get that money so you have it to invest when that opportunity comes up.
Yeah, super important, man. So I know you always write down all your quotes.
I'm always
some
writing
quotes you got
down.
in there, man.
All right, so our expenses will grow to equal our income unless we protest to the contrary. That's exactly what we were just talking about. I mean, if all of a sudden you found out you were making $100 less a week, you'll find a way. You'll find a way to do it.
And board money finds something to do, man.
Oh,
if you don't put that in a separate account and it's not staying there and it's just sacred money, it'll get spent somewhere.
I love this. The soul of a free man looks at life as a series of problems and solves them, while the soul of a slave continually whines about his misfortunes.
I love that, man. I mean, that comes back down to mindset. I mean, we talk a lot about mindset. So I actually have another quote here that I really love. You know, where the determination is, the way can be found.
Yep.
You got to make the decision, man. You got to make the decision you're going to do this and take responsibility for yourself, your life, and your wealth, honestly.
Oh, let me see. This one kind of hit home, not just business-wise, but personally. Advice is freely given away, but watch that you only take what's worth having. We talked about, I think I told you about once, I saw a commercial, and it was a car commercial or something like that, but it basically sums that up. And the guy said, never take advice from people who didn't have the guts to do what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
And we're real estate agents. How many times have family members, loved ones, friends said, what are you doing? You're taking a jump, you're going to take a leap, and you're just going to put it all out there. They don't get it. They don't understand what we're going through. And they're going to give you advice. Get that safe job and income. We talk.
I mean, how many times have you had a seller that gives you advice on how to sell a home?
Right?
You know, it just goes back to that. You know, you're not going to take advice on Jules for the brickmaker. I mean, that's one of the things he talks about in the book.
Yeah, yep.
Get advice from people that know what they're talking about or are knowledgeable about that subject.
It's one of the 7 laws of gold.
That's it, man.
7 laws of gold. Opportunity is a haughty goddess who wastes no time with those who are unprepared.
Yeah. Again, have to be prepared. You need to have that money set aside because when that opportunity comes, you better be able to take it, man. Because if you don't, you're going to be kicking yourself for the rest of your life. And regret is a horrible thing to deal with.
All right, so we both love the book.
I got one more quote I want to talk about.
One more quote.
I want to talk about this. So, you know, you're taking that 10% and really planting the seed. So one of the quotes I really like in this book is, wealth is like a tree. It grows from a tiny seed. You just plant that seed and let it go, man. And I love this too because this really comes back to, you know, protecting that money and putting it back in. Each coin is a slave that can work for you, then make its children and its children's children work for you. So when you get money from that investment, that money needs to go right back in, just roll it right back in to make more money. That's compound interest, man. Compound interest is one of the greatest things ever.
Probably is the greatest.
It probably is the greatest
It's one
thing.
of my favorite things in the world.
I mean, you set something away now and it just grows compoundedly. I mean, it's astronomical and just exponential growth. So that's just really a huge thing for me, man.
All right, so we both love the book. It's time to rate it. We got a little bit of differences of opinion, but we're pretty much on page with each other. What do you think?
So, absolutely phenomenal foundational piece. I have a really hard time reading this book, man. I mean, it's written in like this old text. Even when I'm listening to it, they talk in that old text, and it's just, and it doesn't grab me all the time. There's some parts in here that, you know, kind of like zone out when I'm listening to it, and I'm la-di-da-di. It doesn't just pull me right in. You know, but the content of this book is just so phenomenal and so necessary for you to build wealth in your life. So I'm giving it a 4.2.
All right. So your reasoning for having some challenges with it, probably my favorite part. I mean, except for the content, of course, all those nuggets that we got of all those big bangs that we like out of it. I love the fact that you go through one chapter, it's a parable. You get all the lessons, then they move on to the next chapter, and it's kind of building on it. So it's kind of one chapter, you get the story out, now you start new again, And I love the Old Testament. And if you guys listen, like I said, I always got my beats in. I listen to books while I'm driving in. I love the guy's voice who narrates. I mean, I love that.
I know you're always talking about his voice.
So my rating, I'm going to give it a 4.6. So 4.6 and a 4.2. You know?
So we're going to give this book a 4.4.
All right, so 4.4 stars. So thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed The Richest Man in Babylon from George S. Clason. As always, this is just the beginning of the conversation. We want to hear your comments, your thoughts, your big bangs, your favorite quotes, all that stuff. So fill up that comment section. Let's start a discussion. We want to discuss it with you.
Be sure to join us next time when we review Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And as always, keep doing next level shit.